my path to Silicon Valley was via an MBA. I did physics undergrad, so it was somewhat technical, but really just didn't have a business education other than the craziness of dot-com world. And so basically spent the first year acclimatizing, recharge. I mean, I spent 5 years at last minute working 80 hours a week. This was just a great way to recharge. So that was my path there. And then summer of 2004, started to think about what's next.
And you're doing business school in the Valley at Stanford's GSB, which is where you also met your co-founder as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, there's a reason why companies are created there at Stanford, just because every day you meet founders that are either presenting or you're in your class. There's capital, there's culture around creativity, destruction, innovation. It's such a fertile soil. And then the Stanford MBA is not a training ground for McKinsey or Goldman. It's really a training ground for startups.
It's a great place. And so how did you use that training ground to actually incubate an idea? And how did you end up deciding to start a verticalized search marketplace for real estate?
There were a couple of different sort of things that combine. I guess really two things. One was that the way that these classes work is that the first year they put you on campus housing, and the second year they said, okay, you're on your own. So teamed up with a bunch of friends, and we said, let's get a house together. And then said, okay, here we are. This is Silicon Valley. This is the most advanced place in the world. How do we find information about houses to rent or houses to buy? I'm trying to think through what would be the right thing to do in our collective financial situation. So in the most advanced place in the world, I was told I'd had to go and speak to either a real estate agent or go on Craigslist, which just seemed like, again, for what is either, if I'm renting, it's the biggest outgoing, or if I'm buying somewhere, that's probably the single biggest financial decision of my life. And so where's the information? Where's the consumer tool? And I was just like, I was sort of stunned.
It's right next to a listing to buy a used couch, it turns out. It's the
or the newspaper where everything's out of date. So I was just like, okay, this is kind of nuts. There's a lot of reasons why that's sort of the case, but it was just, you could see that it was like, okay, this is the right timing for this sort of activity. And then I really benefited from that time in online travel, where you have very clear consumer demand. You've got fragmented suppliers that don't really know how to navigate the internet. And so how do you construct a consumer experience that gives consumers what they want and then also gives the market participants what they want? That was the primary catalyst. I also spent a summer at Battery Ventures helping them out on sort of diligencing stuff, and that kind of gave me sort of more confidence that this is going to be the idea. And I said, at the end of the summer, and then I said to them very clearly, I don't know whether you want to give me a job when I graduate next year, but regardless, I don't want the job or a job. I want you to fund this startup that I've been kind of ruminating. And
so really kind of a confluence of three things there. One, your experience in building verticalized search at last minute. Two, search is just ascendant at the moment. Google's just done an IPO in 2004, very well received. And three, conducting your own personal search for a place to live and realizing it's pretty broken.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of the Google IPO in 2004 was like, okay, well, you could see the horizontal search is good for many things, but vertical search is going to be required for a bunch of specific high value verticals. So that confluence is there. So I came back to school, and the first person I wanted to chat to about this was a friend of mine, a classmate called Sami Inkanen. And he was quite similar to me. He was European, did physics, had been in entrepreneurial stuff preschool, and was sort of on the spectrum of folks, with those that thinking about being an entrepreneur. He was committed to being an entrepreneur, just like me. And so we bounced a bunch of ideas around previously. And so he was similarly excited about it. And so we teamed up and worked on class projects and spent half of our student time working on what became Trulia, and then half of it just getting by with studies. But it was one of those things that we had confidence that this needed to happen, and also felt that we had the skills to actually make it happen.